every Viktor who lives off European money while trying to sell out European interests deserves a smack upside the head.
Zelensky's remarks about Viktor Orban at the Davos summit triggered a sharp rebuke from Hungary, adding fresh heat to already tense Ukraine-EU politics. Hungary's Prime Minister slammed Zelensky for crossing a line at Davos, framing the comments as an unacceptable personal and political attack. Orban was responding after Zelensky said the Hungarian leader deserved a smack on the head, a phrase that instantly became a headline and a diplomatic irritant. Orban took to X to criticize Zelensky, labeling the Ukrainian president as a man in desperate position and suggesting Kyiv is lashing out under pressure. Orban went further by accusing Zelensky of refusing to end the ongoing war with Russia, arguing that Ukraine is prolonging the conflict instead of pursuing talks. He reiterated there will be no Hungarian support for Zelensky's war against Russia, signaling Budapest will keep resisting Kyiv's preferred line inside the EU. Orban said, and I quote, "Yesterday in Davos, President Zelensky crossed a line. There is nothing new in the fact that, as elections approach in Hungary, he once again placed the Hungarian government, and me personally, in his sights. What was surprising, however, was that in his speech he also criticized every other European leader. He says the support sent to Ukraine is insufficient, the weapons are insufficient, and Europe's determination is insufficient." Orban then dropped another bombshell by claiming Europe is accepting all of Zelensky's war demands, warning that Brussels is simply signing on to Kyiv's wish list. He accused the EU leadership of agreeing to hand out $800 billion to Kyiv and of speeding up Ukraine's EU entry, describing it as reckless and expensive. Orban slams Brussels. Orban said Brussels moved quickly with a response, claiming Ursula von der Leyen presented a roadmap for Ukraine's development almost immediately. He alleged the Brusselians accepted every Ukrainian demand, listing $800 billion for Ukraine and accelerated EU accession by 2027 as key items. Orban also claimed the plan includes further support through 2040, arguing it locks Europe into long-term commitments without a public mandate. He argued Zelensky has things all backwards while Brussels is eager to pay up, suggesting Europe is rewarding pressure rather than insisting on accountability. Orban said a national petition is coming to send Brussels a clear message: Hungary will not pay, framing the dispute as a domestic political campaign as well. On January 22, Zelensky attended Davos despite earlier suggesting he might skip it due to Russian attacks, indicating shifting priorities as diplomacy intensified. Taking aim at pro-Russia Viktor Orban, Zelensky accused him of being a sellout, escalating the dispute from policy disagreement into blunt personal criticism. Zelensky claimed Hungary is living off Europe's money while also selling out its interests, arguing Budapest benefits from the EU even as it undermines EU unity. He then said Orban deserves a smack upside the head, using unusually sharp rhetoric on a global stage that guaranteed an angry response from Hungary.
The issue of Russian oil is the same. It's good that many sanctions exist. Russian oil is getting cheaper, but the flow has not stopped. And Russian companies that fund Putin's war machine are still working. And that will not change. That will not change without more sanctions. And we are grateful for all the pressure put on the aggressor. But let's be honest. Europe must do more so its sanctions block enemies as effectively as American sanctions. Why is that important? Because if Europe is not seen as a global force, if its actions don't scare bad actors, then Europe will always be reacting, catching up with new dangers and attacks. We all see that the forces trying to destroy Europe do not waste a single day. They operate freely, even operate inside Europe. Every Viktor who lives off European money while trying to sell out European interests deserves a smack upside the head. And if he feels comfortable in Moscow, it doesn't mean we should let European capitals become little Moscows.
Meanwhile, Zelensky's backers held an emergency summit on the sidelines of Davos on January 22nd, as leaders scrambled to align messaging and commitments. Referring to his ex-post about $800 billion for Kyiv, Orban claimed the proposal was supposed to be secret, implying Brussels was discussing it quietly. Orban alleged the EU agreed to Zelensky's $800 billion demand over 10 years for war reparations, portraying it as a massive open-ended transfer. He also revealed Hungary opposed the EU plan to pay out the $800 billion in 2 phases, arguing the structure still leads to the same bill. Orban made these claims after attending the EU emergency summit at Davos on January 22nd, positioning Hungary as the internal dissenter on Ukraine funding.
Wait, I'm suddenly trying to figure out the result that I saw here today. Well, it was, we received a document, which I believe I am not authorized to disclose publicly. We'll see what will become of it, which is about the Ukrainians' demand for $800 billion was accepted. So there's a Ukrainian demand that the Union provide 800 billion euros over the next 10 years in a document that says, okay, let it be so, and shows plans for how this money needs to be produced, which essentially means incurring debt. It splits into 500 and 300 billion as a first step, second step, and it also talks about a need for 700 billion in military spending beyond the 800 in the next 10 years. So, 1, I don't know if this is a result, but it was certainly a bombshell move, as we thought so far that the Ukrainians had such a demand, and the Union might try to possibly back out or soften it or reduce it. But no, just as the demand came from Ukraine, it was entirely accepted. The most significant stakes of the elections are in Ukraine outside of Hungary, since this document I mentioned also states that Ukraine must join the European Union by 2027. So, it's not just about the 800 billion or 700, but also talks about the accession date as well. And Hungary opposes this. So, in my opinion, there won't be a parliament in Hungary in the next 100 years that would vote for the Ukrainians to join the European Union. And the Ukrainians think that the only way this can be done is to remove the obstacle named Hungary, if there is a pro-Ukrainian government in Hungary, and they are working on this. And then it is obvious in Hungary that we do not want them to join the Union. We oppose their government membership. It's clear even the DK wants to let them in. Therefore, we must acknowledge that the Ukrainians will play an active role in the Hungarian campaign because they have a fundamental interest in a change of government in Hungary. This does not make me happy. It is not a beautiful thing, even if it is understandable. But we will cope with it as well.
The alleged EU proposal surfaced even as Zelensky publicly criticized his own backers at Davos, creating an awkward split between gratitude and pressure. On January 22nd, Zelensky said Brussels loves discussing the future but won't take action, accusing Europe of talking big while moving too slowly. He also hinted he is not satisfied with the scale or speed of European aid, while urging harsher action against Putin and stronger long-term guarantees.